Okay. So let me see if I can access this from YouTube. Okay. So let me see if I can access this from YouTube. Okay. So let me see if I can access this from YouTube. All right. Let me make sure I have it here. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Uma coming to you with a Uma Talks special, Raising My Vibration. If you're watching this live, you're watching me from Zoom or on YouTube. And if you're not watching me live, that's okay. You can always get a hold of me. I always leave at the end ways to get in contact with me if you have any questions about the content or you want to follow me for something that I've suggested. All right. So if you guys see me looking down every now and then, I just keep checking my YouTube to make sure I don't miss any comments that are coming in from over there. Welcome in people on Zoom. And we're going to talk about raising my vibration. So I wanted to do this talk because there's so much in the metaphysical community. There's so many beliefs. There's so many paths. There's nothing wrong with any of them. But sometimes you get to a point in life where you just want to take that one path that's going to get you there and get you there quickly, easily, and effortlessly. And I have suggestions about that path, right? So I'm going to share again, it's my perspective. I don't expect anybody to agree with me 1,000% or to even like anything and everything I'm saying. So what I'm always going to say is when I share my perspective, I'm sharing it as a metaphysical teacher who's been in the community professionally for 13 years. I've had my center since 2009. I've worked with over 12,000 people in sessions, a lot more in classes. I've seen some trends. I've seen some patterns. I've heard about things. I've witnessed things. So what I'm sharing here today is really from my own perspective as a metaphysical teacher, as the CEO of a metaphysical center. And if I offend anyone with my thoughts, just remember that it's just opinions, right? You don't have to take it seriously. And, take what you can, leave the rest. So when people come to me, they usually come to me when it's time for mentorship because they've come to understand, like, I've been doing this thing called life for the past 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And I'm not as far along as I thought I would be. And there's no harm in that. There's no problem with that, right? It's when you wake up and have that realization, like, I'm at this age and I thought I would have had this by now, or I thought I would have been this by now, or I thought I would have achieved inner peace. So mentoring is not something new in the spiritual community. It might be new to people who are outside of the spiritual community, but it's about like helping people get on the path, right? So when we talk about raising my vibration, we have to start at the key concept, which is we live in a vibrational universe. We don't live in a universe that rewards good, punishes wrong. We live in a universe that is vibrational. How do we know that? How many of you know people that are, according to you or society, are bad people, but they got away with a lot of stuff? I mean, the most famous example of that is Hitler, right? He killed people. He killed thousands of people. And yet he had a very good life while he was alive, rapists, serial killers, murderers, right? Gangsters, mafia, drug lords, still alive, still walking the streets, but or people who are really good and they die, Where's the sense of justice in that? So that kind of examples, those examples show us that we don't live in a universe that rewards the good and punishes the bad. So if we don't live in a universe that rewards the good, punishes the bad, what kind of universe do we live in? That should be your next question. The answer that science, quantum physics, metaphysics have come to determine that clashes with spirituality in a positive way is that we live in a vibrational universe. So what does that mean? That means that we live in a universe that what you put out, you get back. Plain and simple. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. Everything is subjective and relative. Here's another thing. We all live physically on this same planet, but we don't all live in the same dimension. So that's why you can have a friend who's just consistently attracting bad thing after bad thing after worse thing after worse thing. And you feel pity or empathy or compassion for that person, but you may not understand that person, why they just seem to be jumping from the pot to the pan to the pot, like what's going on. It could be that you live in a different dimension from that person, right? It could be that you have more focus, more intention. You have a higher alignment with your vibration, thereby allowing you to have a different living experience. So that's the first thing you want to become aware of, is when you disagree with people on this planet, when you are doing better than other people, or maybe worse than other people, it's not a matter of favoritism. The universe doesn't choose who gets what, but we choose. We choose what we get by the choices that we make. So living in a vibrational universe, the very first key concept that we have to understand is we have to understand what this universe is about. We have to spend the time exploring where we live. And we weren't taught to do that. How many of you have relocated in your life? Right? You lived in one place, whether it's one country to another country, one state to another state, one town to another town, or even you're in the apartment complex and you move from one apartment to another apartment, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, most of us, if not all of us, have relocated. What is a typical behavior you do when you relocate? If you move to a different city or state or country, don't you do your research? Now, some of us do the research before we get there, right? Especially like if you're a parent with kids, you might research the school systems. You might research that new job that you're getting. You might research the homes that you're buying, the living areas, the districts, you know, the crime rate, all of that stuff. You do some sort of research before you just don't blindly pick up and move, right? Why haven't we done that same sort of exploration about this life, about the universe, about our souls? Why aren't they teaching that us on this planet? Doesn't it sometimes feel like sometimes you just blindly are born and you're here and everybody's telling you all the stupid information, right? How to pay taxes, how to drive. But what about the more important information? When you're down and out, how to pick yourself back up again. When you're thriving, how to keep it consistently in flow. What it means when you're having panic attacks and anxiety attacks. What is your soul trying to tell you? Why are they not having these conversations? Now, they have been having these conversations, but they've been having them in the secret schools, the mystery schools. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And the understanding with that, it's not that they're trying to prevent everybody from finding out what's the what. The understanding with that is you have to be ready for this kind of information. It's like you can't look at a toddler and say, do you know algebra? Let me go ahead and share this algebra with you, right? All the toddler wants to know is 1 + 1 = 2. Or all the toddler is capable of understanding is 1 + 1 = 2. So The knowledge is out there. The teachers have the knowledge. The secret schools have the knowledge. The old ancient books have the knowledge. But it takes your desire, your choice to want to know more to move ahead. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you don't have that desire, it means that it's not your time to understand what you're involved in. Enlightenment can be passed down from person to person, but stepping onto the enlightenment path is not something that another person can do for you. It's something you have to choose. You have to wake up one day and decide, I don't like how my life is going. I feel there's more here that I don't know. I want to know. I have a deep desire to understand how this all works. And that wanting in you is what creates your next level and your path. Now, why am I talking about all of this before I talk about raising your vibration? Because you have to understand what your original intent was when you tapped in and said, I wanted to listen to this talk. It's a soul calling. A lot of you are here because of your soul calling to listen and to understand vibrations. So just like how you felt the need to be here, to listen to this, to invest your time and your energy into this, is a very clear understanding of how vibration works. You see, a lot of us want the plain and simple, the clear cut, dry, the tell me what to do. I get a lot of students who do that. They tell me, Uma, tell me, just tell me what to do. But that's not the way the unfolding works, you understand? It works by your readiness, your acceptance, your ability to want to change. You know, Dr. Joe Dispenza said, after the age of 30, only 5% of us is able and ready to make changes. What does that mean? That means that even though you showed up here, you want to hear this talk about raising vibrations and all of that, only 5% of you is committed to hearing it and possibly making changes. There's 95% of you that is committed to staying the same, doing the same, and living in the same. Why is that? Because we're comfortable there. You ever heard the saying, I'd rather be with the demon that I know than the demon that I don't know? We have been fooled. We have been taught a lot of wrong things. We've been taught to fear change. And change is the most blessed thing that could bring a lot of relief into your life. We've been taught to fear different. And sometimes it's different is what we need to escape the hell that we're living in. So the first step to raising your vibration is adaptability. You have to be willing and ready to be flexible and to adapt. And you have to be willing and ready to change your mindset when things are presented to you. If you find you listen to these talks, you read the books, you attend the seminars, and you find that as that speaker, that teacher, that mentor is speaking, and you're just resisting or fighting or coming up with, arguments in your head, you're not ready. You're not ready. And that's not something that anybody can do for you but you. So if you're ready to raise your vibration, you're also going to be ready to listen to things that are different from what you've known all your life. Right? You can't change your vibration, raise your vibration by doing the same old that you think you know. Because let me tell you something plain and clear. If it would have worked, it would have worked by now. If you were the healer of you and the changer of you, you would have changed yourself by now. And that is another false concept that the spiritual circles teach, is that it's all within you. Yes, it is all within you. But how do you uncover it within you? Right? If you are a nut, if you're a walnut and you have that goodness inside the walnut, that hard shell, how do you crack you open? Right? If you're a little nut inside the walnut shell, how do you get out and crack you open? You need somebody else to crack you open. So when you come across people in life, it doesn't have to be a teacher or a healer or a mentor. It could be people on Facebook. It could be people in the grocery line. It could be people that you work with. When you come across difficult people, understand two things that we've just talked about. One, they might be existing in a different dimension than you. So hold space, because you don't know if their dimension is higher or lower than yours. So hold space. And two, you have to be ready and flexible to hear something outside of your norm. Does that make sense? That is the first step in raising your vibration, is understanding that you don't know everything, and all of life is there to teach you, to graduate you, to move you through the levels. One of the biggest lessons I learned and grew and became enlightened through were my parents. So completely different from me. Very rigid in their thinking, very conservative, lots of things, right? And in the beginning, before I was enlightened, I fought them, because that's what we're taught to do. If people disagree with you, you have to now have an active battle because they're opposing you. But the more you grow on this path, the more open you become to listening to viewpoints, especially viewpoints completely different than yours. Why? Because you reach this understanding that if I'm at a high vibration, there is nothing other people can say or do that can affect me. I'm beyond the vibration of separation. So everything on this planet operates by vibration. And if you believe in separation, I'm right, they're wrong, I'm the victim, they're the abuser, I'm the empath, they're the narcissist. If you believe in all of those titles, then immediately that tells me you're operating in the third dimension. Nothing wrong with being in the third dimension. A lot of the population is in the third dimension. All they're concerned about is their money, their relationships, their health, their things, right? Nothing wrong with the third dimension. However, if you're going to exist in the third dimension, you have to be aware of the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, that will have governance over your life. So you can't get mad. You can't get mad when things go wrong, when things are bad. You can't get mad. You have to accept it and keep it moving. If you decide to up level, if you decide to raise your vibration and operate more in the fourth dimension, then that's the mental. So you can debate more. You don't feel the need to cut people out or see people as good or bad, but you do have a desire to argue with them or to second guess them or to question them. Because there's still a little bit of that third, dimension mentality there. I need to be right. But in the fourth dimension allows more openness to discussion and expansion of ideas. If you're choosing to exist in the fifth dimension and above, fifth through however many dimensions there are, then that's the level of unconditional love. That's where it doesn't matter what goes on. You're able to understand that there is no right, there is no wrong. It's all perception. So it allows you to still love people no matter what they do. If a child grew up in the ghetto and they felt hungry every single day of their life, stealing would not be an ethical dilemma for them. They need to survive, they need to eat. I'm going to steal, I'm going to do what I got to do to survive. From their perspective, stealing is right. From someone who's grown up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood where they've always had food, they've never gone hungry, stealing is wrong. It's a death sentence they want to give you. Who's right, who's wrong? Well, it depends on which dimension you're looking at it from, right? In the third dimension, you're going to want to agree with the person who has a similar background to you. It doesn't make it right, but it feels right because your experiences mirror their experiences so you can understand. And that's how we start getting in these Twitter wars, Facebook wars. Nobody wins an argument, but people don't understand that. It just looks like somebody wins because this one side has 80 people saying yes, and the other side had 40 people saying no. So by process of math, the 80 side won, but nobody really wins. If you're operating from the fifth dimension and above, you understand that that child needed to eat. So you don't consider them bad or wrong for stealing. You consider them sensible. Because life is more important than laws. Living is more important than human laws, right? So, knowing now that we all live on this same earth, but we live in different dimensions, your next question should be, which dimension am I on? And if I don't like it, how do I go higher? Right? So how do you know the dimension you're on? Just look at your day-to-day life. Look at your thought patterns. Look at your choices of thoughts and actions and deeds. If someone doesn't send you a birthday card on your birthday, are you not sending them a birthday card on their birthday? If someone doesn't invite you out, are you not going to invite them out? If someone has a problem with what you believe, or do you now have a problem with them because of their non-belief in your belief? So if you got that duality going on, you might be existing in a third dimension, right? If you are a person who's pretty happy-go-lucky, pretty much has inner peace, if bad things happen, you don't see it as bad, you see it as some sort of opportunity, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for connection, an opportunity for up-leveling, an opportunity to show what you've learned, then you might be in the fifth dimension and above, or fourth and above. Because what you're saying is I understand that everything in the universe is always working out for me. Mm-hmm. And when you really believe that, you don't see bad anymore. Someone could break up with you, someone can die, you could lose your job, and you're still happy. You're happy on the inside because you know that you have peace and you know that it's going to all be okay. You just got to do what you got to do to get it to where you need it to be. But it's all within your power. Now, if you realize that everything is within your power, you are now an enlightened being. But if you're constantly blaming other people and you're in that victim mentality, you're not in your enlightenment, and you need to figure that out. So how do we raise our vibration? There's many things, there's many ways. You could go on YouTube right now, how to raise my vibration. Somebody might tell you to do a meditation. Somebody might tell you to do a cord cutting. Like there's so many rituals and stuff like that. And again, none of them are wrong because it depends on which dimension you exist in. If you're in the third dimension, cord cutting might work because you believe in right and wrong, good and bad. So if you believe your ex is a bad person and they're still attached to you and they're causing you all the drama and pain in your heart, then that is your belief. So now you do need that cord cutting to separate you from that person so that you can get better. So how do I answer this question? Uma, I want to raise my vibration. What do I do? The first thing I do is I check to see where the person's at. And I can't ask them. I can't say, oh, are you in the third dimension, fourth, fifth, or above? I can't say that because they don't know. What I do is I have a conversation first with them and I try to see where their mindset is. I ask questions that are polarizing. You know, maybe talk about politics, maybe talk about religion, maybe talk about something that is completely out there. And I just wait and see how they're going to respond. And then usually in those responses, I can tell what kind of information I need to give them. You know, and that's why with, you know, being a coach, being a healer, being a mentor, it's not a one-stop shop for everybody. You got to figure out where people are. And this is how I'm going to tell you. If you are a person that's existing in a third dimension, you realize to yourself, I still believe in right and wrong, good and bad. I still believe there's bad people out there. I still believe I am the victim of past circumstances. I still believe that, you know, other people are lucky and I'm not. Then you're in a third dimension. And how do you raise your vibration? You start by working on the self-love within yourself. Because once you start to love yourself 100%, completely and fully, then that somehow translates in your brain that you can love other people completely and fully. Right? So if you're in the third dimension, the first thing I would tell you is work on your self-love. Work on accepting you as you are 100%. And if that's hard to do, then there's a lot more trauma there that you need to work through. Which, by the way, trauma stores in the soul energy field. And that's why a lot of people who go to get like a Reiki session or, psychotherapy or crystal work or whatever, it works for a little bit, but then they go back to what they, what they're struggling with. When you're clearing trauma, you have to clear it from a soul level. So I do a combination. I do a combination of healing, mentoring to clear soul trauma. And every practitioner you talk to is going to be different. But I can't speak on other practitioners and what they're doing. I can only present what I know and what I'm doing. So if you're in the third dimension, you want to raise your vibration, love is the way. Right? If you're out of the third dimension, your fourth dimension, you're more mental, you're more logical, then I would say education. Start looking to get mentoring. Start looking to take classes, read books, Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth, right? Asking It Is Given, Abraham Hicks, things like that. You start to learn more because you start to understand, okay, I'm past the right, wrong, good, bad. I know that everything is good here. It's just my perception. So now I got to learn how to work with that perception. Does that make sense? I got to learn how to focus on the things that I need to be focusing on and leave the rest behind. So that's healing. That's healing and education. And then fifth and above, you don't really have to do anything, because if you are a loving person and you see everywhere you look, you see love, then you're well on your way. The only thing I would say at that point is if you really truly needed like some sort of help, it would be maybe fine-tuning your intuition and your psychic abilities so that as you're receiving the messages, you're clearly hearing them. I did a talk recently about not everybody can trust their intuition. Why would I say that? Not everybody can trust their intuition. Because your intuition comes from your soul. And if you have trauma stored in your soul that you have not taken care of, then your intuition becomes nothing more than fear-mongering. You guys understand that? It becomes fear-mongering. Oh, I don't like that person. She has a bad vibe. Something about this house is off. It's just fear. It's not your intuition. It's your trauma disguising as intuition. So you got to learn the difference. You got to learn what is really my intuition. What does that feel like? What does that look like? What does that sound like? And then you got to learn difference from, oh, that's my trauma speaking. Right. So fifth dimension and above, I would say learning, educating, understanding. And you might ask me, Uma, what do I need to learn about? You need to learn about the natural laws. You need to know about energy, how energy works. You need to learn about yourself, why you are here. If nobody has done their soul plan, you got to get your soul plan done. Now I say soul plan because when I do it, I do like numerology and astrology, but most people are like astrologers. They call it like a birth chart. So if you haven't gotten your birth chart done, and that's only astrology, get your birth chart done. That's going to be important. That's imperative, right? Because the first step in living that enlightened life and raising your vibration is understanding why you're here and what you're here to do. You got to know who you are. It makes no sense to come to this planet, just play around, get into a series of bad things and have a sprinkling of good things and then die. It's not conducive to your growth, your spiritual growth, your soul growth, right? But unfortunately, we have a lot of that happening. I really don't know who dropped the ball. It's a good pipeline from soul to human to soul. It's a good pipeline, but I think somewhere along the way, somebody was supposed to explain stuff to us. Now, if I argue against that, I can say, no, You're not supposed to have anybody explain it to you. You're supposed to figure it out yourself. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the plan, the game, the life, is to come and figure it out and then live differently. So I'm halfway through the talk. I'm going to open it up. If anybody has questions, you can type it in the comments. You can unmute yourself and ask me your questions. Just a reminder that we are recording to YouTube. It is live on YouTube and it's going to be as a recording on there. So if you ask your question by unmuting and you don't want to be seen, just take your camera off. All right. Any questions? And I'm just giving it some time in case people are typing. All right, no questions. Well, this is a short talk. Another thing that I did when I was raising my vibration is I did take mentoring, and I do mentor. I have a mentorship program starting next Wednesday, July 6th. I did take mentoring because here's what happened. When it was me and a group of ladies, we used to meet at my house every Thursday night, and we would play like the majority of us would play, right? Okay, I see some questions coming in. Thank you guys. I'll answer them after I finish this thought. So we used to play. They would come to my house every Thursday night. One night we would do pendulums. One night we would do angel cards. One night we would do runes. We did the Metatron cube. You know, we would just do like silly stuff. And I think that's where a lot of people start out, right? On their spiritual path and awakening, is you start to just be intrigued by these things, cards, runes, crystals, all that good stuff. But the difference was I started to see changes, even though we were just playing. I started to see, like, we did an intention on a new moon night, and I wrote on a piece of paper what I wanted, and then I got it. Or we did a violet flame meditation, and I wanted to cut cords, and it did. It just happened. So then those synchronicities started showing up, and I was like, there's more to this than I know. So it was 4 of us, and my 3 friends did not go through mentoring. They just kind of were content to play with me at my house on Thursdays. And I went through mentoring. And it was like a great divide happened between me and them. I still like hear from them every now and then, but it's not good. It's like when we get together, the last time we got together was pre-COVID. So, you know, when we would get together, they would still be complaining about the same problems they were experiencing in their life. It just felt like an old comedy rerun, like a sitcom show. And I didn't understand, because they learned all the things I learned from all those Thursday play dates, but they were still dealing with the same problems. And I was up leveling at a very fast rate. My business was growing. It was booming. I had to move out of my house into a center because the business was just too much for my house. I had to hire staff, you know. I got into some amazing relationships and had some amazing love stories, right? But they were still stuck in the same old, and I didn't understand this. And it was at that point that my mentor told me, she said, there's a difference between playing in the spiritual field and wanting to know, and then really wanting to change your life. And she said, the sad thing is a lot of people come to this out of play, but they're not really serious about making changes. You remember that 5%, you know, 95% we talked about earlier. Only 5% of you is committed to change. And my mentor had said to me something, an analogy that I really like, that I share with all of you. When you're stepping on the spiritual path, it's like you have an old, you know, tuner radio, and you're turning the dial, trying to find the radio station to lock in that is going to bring you the best vibrational match to everything that you ever want in your life. It's going to take a while because you've never done it. So you got to do a bit of a search. You're going back and forth, back and forth. A mentor helps you find that dial right away. So it saves you time. It saves you frustration. It saves you energy. You just get right there, locked and loaded. And that's what my mentor shared with me. And I was like, okay. So ever since her, I've been through like about 20 mentors. because I started to understand that there's things about this planet I don't understand. And I need somebody to teach me so I can understand and I can live my best life. So for those of you that are really serious about raising your vibration, that is something you want to consider, is looking into working with a teacher, a coach, a healer. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. I mentor people, but I have friends that are yoga teachers and they're like mentors to their yoga students. I've heard of massage school teachers that have become like a mentor to their massage school students. It's somebody, the idea is you want to work with somebody who knows more about this living experience than you do. And you want to see them thriving. So if you are, say, like a massage therapist, you probably want to have a mentor who has a successful massage business, who can help you with that, right? When it comes to the spiritual life, you want to find somebody who seems genuinely happy most of the time. You can't be happy all of the time, but for the most part, they're genuinely happy. They're generally peaceful, and they genuinely have like an abundant lifestyle. That's the kind of things you're looking for with the spirit life, right? Is the up level. There's no shame in getting help, but for some reason, we're taught to avoid help. Look how long it took people to accept psychotherapy. And psychotherapists have been around forever, but it was such a stigma. If you go and see somebody and talk about your problems, you're weak, you're crazy, you're delusional, you got mental health issues now. And it's the same thing for coaches and spiritual teachers. People think you're crazy or delusional. What are you doing? So here's the other thing. When you're up leveling and you're increasing your vibrational frequency, you're going to have to fall out of touch with people or situations or surroundings that you're in right now that's not going to be a match soon. So that's another thing that you have to be aware of. If you like your life the way it is, you may not want to up level because you may lose all of it, especially if it's been built on a false pretense, right? So be aware of that. That's why you see a lot of people who step on the spiritual path, they start getting divorces, they stop hanging out with friends they used to hang out with all the time, they start cutting ties with their family. I don't agree with any of it. I believe that there's a way to be on a different vibrational plane than your husband, your children, your parents, your family, your friends, and still coexist. But again, what dimension am I speaking from when I say that?
Fifth.
Yeah, fifth. Because that's unconditional love, right? Mm-hmm. It's the people that have become super spiritual in the third dimension and think they're like the cat's meow. So then they start cutting everything and everybody off that is opposing to them. It's still third dimensional, right? All right, let's answer some of these questions. How do you present your soul plan to people? I really don't. I mention it like when I do these free talks, these free readings, these free circles, I mention what I do because I'm not the kind of teacher that likes to hard sell myself. I like to the thing is it's hard being a spiritual business owner because you have to let people know what services are available without letting people know that these services are available, if that makes sense. So it's like, I want people to know and be aware that there's things that I can offer that may be of assistance, but I don't want to sell it to people. So for instance, if there's 10 of you listening right now, there might be one of you that's interested in the soul plan reading. And I would say, go to my website, read up about it, see if it's a fit, so I don't sell it. I just kind of let my work sell itself. And I really, again, I believe in alignment. I believe very strongly in alignment. I believe in the path of least resistance. I don't believe in doing anything hard or pushing or, because that's that duality energy, and that's third dimensional. No pain, no gain. You got to work hard and play hard and all this crap, right? Third dimensional thinking. When you transition out of third dimensional, everything flows to you. Would I like to do a soul plan reading on all of you? Absolutely. Because it's helpful. It helps people understand where they are, where they're going, what they're here for. But am I going to suggest it? No, because it's unless you're in alignment with that energy, it's going to be a waste of time for me and for you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And for those of you that are small businesses, that's a big nugget of information I just gave you, a big nugget of information, because when you have a business or when you work for yourself, the idea is you got to like push and do stuff and gimmicky and all of that to attract people, but that's third dimensional. You know how you attract people to you? You just be, you shine, you walk your truth, you live your truth. And then people gravitate you like flies to honey, right? Because they want what you have. They want to be like you. And that's the best way that you can sell your plan, is that way, or whatever products you're doing. Do you have to practice raising vibration every day? I actually did in the beginning. So in my mentorship program, the second class is about energy and the light worker. And in there, I show people how I did a 30-day exercise on how to raise my vibration. And I give that to my students so that they can raise their vibration. In the beginning, you have to actively put your conscious attention on your vibration to raise it, because you're so steeped in lower vibrational energies around you that you have to actively do things to raise your vibration. It's not because it's not naturally existing within you. Does that make sense? But after a while, you don't have to do all the things on a regular basis anymore, because you become the energy. So there's a difference when you're outside the energy and when you are the energy. So I meditate pretty much every day. For the past 20 years, I've been meditating every day. But after year 10, do I meditate consistently? No. Can I skip a day and still be in alignment? Absolutely. Can I skip a week and still be in alignment? Possibly. Can I skip a month? Heck no. I'm human. Right? So it's one of those things where you start to learn you and what you're capable of. I'm at a place in my life right now. I did not meditate this morning. I'm in a good place. But if anybody in here was to say something to me and I was to have a reaction to it, my first thought wouldn't be, oh, that person's an idiot. My first thought would be, Uma, you're out of alignment, because you're able to feel personally attacked by that comment. So I already know to myself, I'm no longer in the 5D. I've now dropped to 3D. Does that make sense? And you can drop levels all the time. If you are not eating right, if you're hungry, if you're tired, if you've had a bad day, if you're stressed, if you're overworked, if you're exhausted. Remember, you are a multi-dimensional being. You're not just your soul, you're your soul, your spirit, your mind, your body. There's 4 parts to you. So if any one of those things is out of whack, you can absolutely drop down out of a dimension that you've been happily existing in. Yeah, you can. Do you have to, I did that one already. Does your mentorship still have open slots? A few, because we start next week. So I'm more than halfway filled. I will put it in the comments in case you wanted to look at that. I was going to talk about the mentorship program at the end of this, but I want to make sure I give space and time to everybody who's here so that you can ask questions and I can answer the questions about what we just talked about. It makes sense. Thanks. I meditate every day too, but if I miss it, I suffer. So I do what you're saying because I'm new. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, Mickey. In the beginning, I could not miss a day. Because I was my life back then had so much energy around me that was not in alignment with me. Here's the biggest thing about stepping on the spiritual path. We resist the changes because we don't want to leave people or situations behind. So we actively choose to resist growth. So when I first stepped on my spiritual path over 20 years ago, I'm 44. I stepped on the path in my 20s. I would start to feel good when I meditate and I did yoga. I would start to feel good, but then I would start to feel like I wanted to pull away from my friends who only at that time in their 20s, what do we want to do? We wanted to drink and party and go to the bar, right? So then when I started meditating and doing yoga back then in my 20s, and I started pulling away from my friends, I didn't want to pull away from my friends. So guess what I did? Stop meditating, stop doing yoga. Right? Because I don't want to be different. I don't want to be away from my people. There's safety in that herd. So that's the push pull a lot of people feel when they come to the spiritual path in the beginning. And when you're trying to raise your vibration, that is going to be the push pull you feel. You start to raise your vibration, everything feels good on the inside by yourself, but then everything starts to fall apart on the outside and you panic. You panic. So what do? You stop doing all the new stuff and you go back to the same old, same old. And then it feels good in a little bit because you're back to normal. But then give it a little bit of time and then your soul gets restless and you want to push again. You want to up level again. And that's why I have people that will be like, they'll take all my classes, then disappear. Then they'll come back, then they'll disappear. Then they'll want to coach with me, then they disappear. And it's just a back and forth. But I've learned over the years, over 13 years, I've learned not to push people. Because if they're experiencing that push pull within themselves, I don't need to invite that energy in with me as their mentor and then have to push pull with them, right? Because it's not personal. It's not personal. Like now there's teachers who take this stuff personally. I don't take it personally. I've had people sign all the way up to do like a retreat with me, go away with me, and then at the last minute cancel out and even told me, keep the money. I know there's a no refund, keep the money, but I'm just not going. And I used to take it personally. But then after a while, you realize that people have to be ready to do this stuff. And once you start up leveling and changing your life on the inside, by law of attraction and law of vibration, you now have to change on the outside. So what was the first thing I said? Type it in the comments. What was the first thing I said when you step on the path of wanting to raise your vibration? You have to be
ready to change.
Yeah, you have to be adaptable. That's it, Danielle. You have to be adaptable. And that's the problem too, is a lot of people ask for things and they don't realize the extent of what they're asking for. Aren't we strange as humans? Aren't we strange? We want to change, but yet we want to remain the same. What's that about?
Can happen.
Yeah, it's the safety factor. It's I don't want to go too far from the shoreline. I need to see the shoreline to feel safe. But in situations like this, especially when your life is really chaotic and really out of balance and you're really unhappy or really stressed or really anxious or really depressed, you got to take the jump. You got to just jump. And you got to say, I'm going to go do all this stuff. I'm going to follow through what my mentor is teaching me. I'm going to do it. And then as things change, I'm ready for the change. I'm ready to receive this. Because let me tell you something right now. The only things that are going to change in your life are the things that are no longer in alignment with who you truly are. So if you're in an unhealthy relationship, a toxic relationship, a codependent relationship, and you start doing your spiritual work, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start fighting that person more. And the breakups are going to become more frequent and the arguments are going to become more frequent because that person is somebody you met when you were living below your alignment with yourself. And now that you've found your stable place within yourself, you found your alignment with yourself, that person cannot exist anymore in your life. So you got to let them go. And as humans, we have a big problem with letting go, which I don't understand right now, because do you know there's a law of detachment? It's a natural and necessary law. The law of detachment says that everything has a natural ending and you got to honor the ending and move on. Mickey says, I'm going through this right now. Yeah. If you're going through something right now, Mickey, where you're having to let go of people in your life, it's a blessing. It's not a curse. And it doesn't mean that you'll never see them again. It just means that at this moment in time, you guys are not a match. So it's okay to walk away. It's okay to disconnect. I've disconnected from a lot of people. I've had to say goodbye to a lot of people in my life, but I always leave the door open. I always leave the door open because here's the thing. This is the way I think. We met where I was here and you were here. We met here, right? I have now up leveled and I'm here. The door is open. You at any point in time are welcome to join me up here, but I will never come back down here. If you can hold that thinking, then nothing is a forever goodbye. Nothing is a forever, I'll never see you again. Everything is relative. And you can absolutely manifest on that person's behalf. But that's learning about the law of attraction and the natural laws and how you can do that. All right, I have a few minutes left. I just would like to open it up for conversation. If anybody wants to share, whether you have a comment, a question, a concern, or just even thoughts that are floating around that you want to share with the group. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. I have like 8 minutes left. So anything you guys want to ask, you're welcome to. And for those of you on YouTube, I see a couple of you are watching live. You can ask me questions in there too. My name is Uma. I am the CEO of the Lotus and Light Metaphysical Center, and I do have a mentorship program starting next Wednesday, July 6th, where I talk more about these concepts and I help people make that shift. And I help them learn ways to raise their vibration. It's what I focus on a lot these days, actually, especially after the pandemic. I think the pandemic taught us that we can rely on no one else but ourselves. I think that's right? Don't you guys feel so? That's what we came out knowing? Like, we are really only what we have. It's great to have the friends and stuff, but at the end of the day, when the world shuts down, then you have to sit in your house by yourself, unless you live with people, and that's it. So you got to, at some point in your life, you got to come to terms with who you are. All right, any questions? Uma, you spoke to me on a soul level. I appreciate that, Danielle. Absolutely. And like I said, if you like this kind of stuff I talk about, I'm going to be doing more about this in my mentorship program. So if you guys don't have any questions, here's what I'm going to tell you about my mentorship program. I've been running this program since 2012. So it's 10 years now. I run it every January, every July. It's a 6-month program. You don't have to take all 6 months. They're divided by the month. So it runs on Wednesday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 2-hour class. But what I do is after 8 p.m., I hang back in case people want to talk. They want to ask me something about their personal life or whatever. I hang back for like another hour until 9 so that people can get some time in. July is intuitive level 1. And August is intuitive level 2. In the intuitive program, I'm teaching you how to trust your intuition. Like I said earlier, not everybody can trust their intuition, because if you have trauma that is still stuck in your soul energy, then a lot of your intuition could be fear-based and you're not really correctly following your intuition. So what we do in intuitive level 1 and 2 is establish that stability in your life and help you to understand how your intuition is talking to you. So that's July and August. September and October is Psychic 1, Psychic 2. You don't have to take it. If I had to say what people have to take, if that's a thing, I would say intuitive level 1 and 2. Get to know who you are, get to know why you're here, get to understand what this is all about. Psychic 1 and 2 for September and October is more for the people who really start to have these psychic awarenesses. These are the people who are seeing synchronicities, 555, as I say this right now. As I'm saying it, it's 555, right? Synchronicities, angel numbers. I think of someone and they call. I wanted $50 extra this week and I got a check in the mail. Like all these things just start lining up. And those people that are like, you know what, I really want to harness this psychic energy within me, then you would take Psychic level 1, Psychic level 2, which is September, October. And then for those of you who find that you have the ability to channel, you're like somebody's coming to you and they're asking you for help, and then you just start giving them information that's just really powerful. And you're even like, whoa, what was that about, right? You're probably channeling. Or if you want to talk to your spirit guides, or if you want to understand how to talk to people who are deceased, right? That is now mediumship 1 and 2 in November and December. So it's a 6-month program. Not everybody makes it to the end of the program, but most people definitely do level 1 and level 2 intuitive, and some people do like Psychic 1 and 2, and very few people move on to mediumship. Each month is its own course. So you could pop in whenever you want. You can take intuitive level 1 and 2, July and August, and then wait until January when I start back and wait for psychic 1 and 2. You know, you can jump in and out as you want to. The cost of the program is cheap. It's $111 for the 4 Wednesdays. So it's 8 hours of teachings for $111, and it's recorded. So you get the recording, so you can rewatch it, or you can watch it if you have to miss a day. And I've dropped the links both on YouTube and in this Zoom for you guys to follow it through. But in case I'm posting this somewhere nobody knows, it's, if you want to find out more about the program and to register and sign up, it's bit.ly/UMA Mentorship 2022. bit.ly/UMA MENTORSHIP 2022. I just wanted to put that out there. It's not by any means forcing anybody to take it, but there might, just from the comments I've been seeing people write, some of you might be interested in working with me, and I just wanted to give you that option. Echoes what I'm doing, and I have done several classes with Uma. They're educational, interesting, and fun. Yeah, hi Karen, welcome back. I got you. Are there any readings, books you recommend in regard to soul paths? Yeah, there's lots. Like I read a ton of books. Eckhart Tolle is great. Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. Carolyn Mace, Soul Contracts. Abraham Hicks, right? Napoleon Hill. There's so many books. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, but remember, I can make suggestions, but it's what dimension you're existing in, right? So like one of my favorite books is Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, but it is a very hardcore book for spirituality, right? So somebody might like go buy it off of my recommendation, but they might not be able to understand it because it's so in-depth. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda, another great book, but somebody might not like the yogic path, right? So the way you read the books is you just got to go to a bookstore or go online, look up spirituality books, and then just read the descriptions. And whatever appeals to you is what you need at that moment in time. I have very conservative parents. I struggle with loving them without them trying to overstep my boundaries. The easiest thing to understand about parents is that their sole purpose is to provide and protect for you. So when you see a parent as somebody like that, it takes off that emotional charge. This person's only task on this planet is to take care of me. And think of all of us as robots, right? And we are the 2.0 of them. They're the 1.0, we're the 2.0. They're outdated, that's all. They're just outdated robots, but they're still trying their best to take care of you, you know? Thank you, Karen. Intuitive level 1 is great. Yes, Karen took my mentorship program. Good to see you on here. Those things are always happening to me, but I had a bad experience with psychic stuff when I was younger. Well, here's the question I would ask you. Was it bad, or was your perception of it bad because you were younger, right? That's what you got to ask yourself. Because when you step on this path, remember, going back up to the 5th level, right? 5th dimensional, unconditional love. When you start to understand that everything in this planet is made for you and by you and, you know, for you to have a good experience, then nothing is bad anymore. But as a young person, it's easy to understand why it could be perceived as bad. And that's why I personally don't train younger people, like teenagers. I can train kids to do Reiki and energy healing. That's fine. But I don't train kids in psychic abilities because they're still developing. Their brains are still young. They have a lot of fear, right? They have a lot of fear. And you have to respect that fear, and you have to respect the growth process, the hormones, the emotional outbursts, and all of that. When you do this work, you find people usually coming to this path of wanting to have an awakening and wanting to understand themselves and wanting enlightenment. Usually people come to this path in their 30s and 40s. Sometimes I get people in their 20s. Sometimes I get people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, but most times it's 30s, 40s, because around that point, usually people have had the marriage, had the children, got the job, finished the education, and are still empty and wanting to know what's more. What they want to know is how to connect to their soul. And that's why you get a mentor to help you make that connection. Yeah, I was 18. Yeah, I could not ground myself and was, yeah. But don't judge yourself, Mickey. Don't judge yourself for that, because that happens to a lot of people. When people come to me and say, oh, I think I'm a medium, but I had a bad experience, I understand. I don't listen. I don't judge anybody at all. I say, okay. And sometimes if you hang out with me, let's say we're out somewhere and one of my students or somebody new is talking to me, you might hear me answer in ways and you might say, why is she saying that? She doesn't believe that. As a teacher, I don't have to believe in it to understand where somebody else is coming from. So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, Uma, a negative entity attached to me, and I went to a healer and the healer removed it, I would say, okay, that's interesting. Now, is there such a thing as negative entities? No, not where I exist. But can negative entities exist in a third dimension? Very sure. I'm absolutely sure of it. I'm pretty positive of it, right? So it's like, it's a way of learning to accept where everybody's at and just understanding that nobody's wrong, but everybody is seeing everything through their lens that they're looking at from. And you just got to respect that. Let me just type this out for the people on YouTube. Here's the link. And I just want to thank you guys for coming and listening in. I do a lot of talks. There's a thing I do. It's called Uma's Spirit Chat and Free Readings. And I basically come on, I do a talk, and then I end with free readings. So that's another thing that I do outside of the Uma talks, where it's just a talk and just like back and forth like this. Right. And if you guys want to stay in touch, you can join my newsletter, because that's like, my newsletter is where I tell people where I'm going to be, what I'm doing, what events are coming up, and you guys can, and I list all the free events and then also the paid events if you're interested in that stuff. So my newsletter, to sign up for that, it's another bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/sign up for Uma. So I just dropped that there. You can join my newsletter. And here's what I'll tell you about the newsletter. I only send it once a week, because I'm very I don't like to disturb people. So you don't ever have to worry about, oh Lord, here comes the 10th email this week from Uma. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. So thank you guys for being here. I hope that I get to see some of you in person or online at some point in the future. And if I don't, I just want to thank you for taking your time, because here's the thing, you just doing this, tuning into some random stranger talking about this, means that you are on your soul development. Because you're not out of the bar, you're not out, hanging out, doing whatever, laying on the couch, watching TV, you're here. So congratulate yourself for that you made it this far, right? That you were able to come this far and say, hey, I'm interested, I'm curious, let me learn more, right? So that tells me that you're already on your path. You're welcome, Dorcas. So welcome everybody, take care. I'm going to stop streaming to YouTube. Be on YouTube. Thank you so much for